All right, the meeting is now in session. Thanks everybody for coming. First thing on the agenda is the minutes from the May 27th board meeting. Does anybody have any questions, comments, additions, deletions, subtractions, what have you? I'll go with the minutes. I assume silence is good. Okay. The minutes will stand as written. Linda reminded me to actually sign them this time. Thank you. That brings us to the attorney's report. So as we did, mentioned, Nate is pinch hitting, so to speak, tonight, or maybe we have somebody pinch hitting with us too. But Bob, did you have anything that you wanted to share with us tonight? Thanks for joining us.
I don't have anything to add that Nate sent along to me. I know there's some stuff that we'll probably talk about later, but I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks for being here for us. That brings us to the clerk treasurer's report, which is just our summary of the funds, so to speak. Does anybody have any questions about the report? You're muted, Linda.
I thought I unmuted myself. It also is the status of water sewer rent was attached to that for May ending.
Thank you for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that format for that report was helpful, and I think that is in line with what we were hoping to do every quarter. So anybody have any thoughts on that at all?
Appreciate the work.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
I can't see Jason on my screen at the same time, so I don't know if he has any body language that I'm missing when he's muted. Let me know, because I can only get fit 4 on my phone screen.
Good.
Thank you. Code enforcement.
Ken said he didn't have anything to really report. So he did issue one building permit for a pool installation, but that's it lately. So,
Things have been, quiet on that front.
so that's why there's no written report, other than the site plan review that you've all got later.
A lot of, as usual, it seems to have increased lately. A lot of outside the village inquiries have been coming in lately, like a lot.
A lot.
Any questions or comments about code enforcement?
No.
All right, thank you. That brings us to the fire department. I know that graduation has been a topic, and I know that at one point, Mike, you may have more to share on this. You may have more insight. At one point, a drive-by graduation was being at some level of planning, and our department's participation was requested in that. But I don't know if that is the newest plan, or
I couldn't honestly give you any really good idea right now what the school's thinking. There's unfortunately in the last 48 hours, there's been a lot going on at the school, as some of you maybe already know, and so that has been a difficult thing given the circumstances of the upheaval that we're already in. It complicated matters, and so I know it's been a long day. Today specifically was a long day. So I haven't really heard any updates yet on what they plan on doing with graduation. Although I would imagine we would know by the end of this week. We have a Friday meeting coming with Dan, so I would imagine.
And they're giving out caps and gowns on Friday as well, I believe.
There is plans to move, have everything in place. So if there is an announcement of what they would do,
yeah.
I'm not going to speculate because I just haven't heard anything specific. There's all sorts of ideas I'm sure floating around.
I'm sure there is.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Mike. Just
No,
it
that's
came up
fine.
and
No,
our
no.
department's participation was requested. So
And yeah,
Gotta
and
be
if I knew
honest before
something,
we know it.
if I could give you a little insight and help, I would have, but I don't have that right yet. If I do hear something and I can pass it on to you, I'll get it back to you very quickly.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Are there any questions or comments about the fire department report or its operations in general?
Quite a water rescue the other night.
Really? Where?
Made the
You
news.
know?
Oh yeah, made the lake.
Where?
Up at the lake.
Okay.
The boat got stuck on some rocks.
It beached itself way out on the water, or if you can see the rocks, you get out of the boat and stand in the water and shimmy it until you can get or lead the boat in. I mean, my God, I've beached a boat.
This coming from a guy who can't install a fence? Is that right?
Yeah, well, yes, this is true. This is true. But I have, well, the man who can't install a fence has also beached a boat. So there you go, in the middle of the lake. So yes,
I
I will
did,
dazzle you with my accomplishments.
I did not attend that particular event, but my
You-
understanding is it was closer down to the dam.
It was near the
Oh.
May have been
spillway.
concerned that.
Oh, that's trickier. Yes, yeah. Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
It was
That's
down towards,
trickier.
it was down towards the spillway, and our chief got right out there, and he was the one on our boat and dragged him back in. So first on the scene and right out there.
Any other questions or comments about the fire department or fence installation?
I've taken a lot of heat on the fence already.
That brings us to the library report. Pretty much informational, but does anybody have any questions?
Do they have any preliminary ideas of how the vote went?
They can still get their votes in till the 16th, I think.
Really?
Maybe Robert can answer that a little bit better than I can, but
Yeah, I mean, there's still votes coming in. Off the top of my head, I don't remember if it's the 16th, but they are still getting votes in, and the count won't happen till the 16th.
Do the votes have to have a June 9th postmark on it? This has to be.
I think that might be what it is that they have to be postmarked and then obviously received by then.
Yeah.
But either way, the count won't happen till the 16th. So
Yeah. Because as I understood it, they were, you couldn't, after June 9th, if you didn't have a postmark, though, it wouldn't have been a valid ballot,
Right.
as I understand it.
and they
Right.
weren't going to let them bring them in or anything like that, but they still got to allow mail-wise, like we do with our bills, before we assess penalty.
Yeah, right.
yeah, the whole voting by mail has caused some headaches.
And then there's the dimpled Chad issue, which maybe that's what Nate's dealing with now.
I lived through that when I lived in Florida, so I can
Yeah.
attest to that nightmare.
Activating your PTSD. All right, any
Hanging
other
Chad. That was my favorite.
questions or comments about the library report? Okay, Public Works report. You've all received that report. I also have some new Public Works related discussion once everybody's had a second to look at the report and ask any questions that they may have.
Finally, snow removal doesn't appear in his report.
It's nice.
And this is officially his last couple weeks of work, right? Isn't July 1st his last day?
Yeah, he's on the payroll basically through the end of July, but he won't be.
Oh, to the end
He'll
of
be,
July.
yeah, he'll be in the role until the end of July, but he really won't be on the job for basically all of July.
And we filled the DPW positions, right?
So the board promoted Scott at the last
Yeah,
meeting.
you're right.
We have not made the hire for the position that Scott is vacating. That is open, and then the plan is to make that decision basically as quickly as possible. Things
Okay.
with the COVID situation slowed the whole process down in a lot of different ways, and
Mhm.
Initially we had planned to have a little bit longer of a overlap and training period, but with money kind of in an uncertain place too, that
Yeah.
gets second guessed as well. We'll still
Okay.
have plenty of training period, but
Okay.
that will probably be on the next meeting agenda.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments about Public Works before I move into the new business regarding Public Works? Okay, so paving. Paving is really a tale of two stories. You either try to get it in at the very beginning, early on in the year, or at the very end. Being a small municipality and being a smaller job, once the summer really gets going, we don't get that the pavers are focused on larger clients. So Jim has been talking with Suco. The plan that was budgeted for this year with our CHIPS money from both last year, which carries over, and this year's CHIPS money, is to mill and pave all of Dorchester, all of Allen, and all of Richards. So up some of your guys' way. Jim's been talking with Suco, and they basically told him that they can do it very soon. But he was asking about the monetary situation and so on and so forth. So I did some digging and some calling around to some of our state representatives today, to NICOM, so on and so forth. So this is what I found, and then I'd like to put it out there to you guys, what you feel comfortable with and how to proceed. So it's about a $40,000 job overall. Our full CHIPS funding would be about $50,000 for carrying over 25 or so from last year, and then the new 25, give or take, roughly. So obviously, a lot of state funding has been either in question or in flux. We don't know a lot of different funds or grant programs and so on and so forth, where they stand. Are they guaranteed? Are they being cut? Pretty much everybody who receives any kind of state funding is being forced to ask those types of questions. So I spoke with Cliff Crouch's office today, our assemblyman. I talked to another member of this assembly. I could not get a hold of Fred Akshar, just bad timing, and I talked to NICOM. So the consensus is that 80% of our CHIPS funding for the current year is what it's two different verbs. Basically, they're saying expect 80% of what was budgeted for you for CHIPS funding for this year, and you can proceed that way. However, due to the nature of a lot of these decisions being made at the last minute and so on and so forth, nobody, including the state, departments themselves, can guarantee that. I mean, the employees of any department in the state can't guarantee what the governor is going to do, what the legislature is going to do at any point throughout this fiscal year. Cliff Crouch explained that is CHIPS funding is bonded money, that the state bonds for that money. So his staff felt confident saying that it won't be cut, it won't be touched, it doesn't make sense for it to be. However, obviously, nobody can guarantee as the nature of this situation. So the question is, Jim wants to get it done as soon as possible. However, he's aware of our funding situation. So there's no clear-cut answer. There's no 100% guarantee. We don't know what will happen. So I want to put it out to you guys. Do we want to get it done now or do we want to take a more, quote unquote conservative approach and push it off and potentially do it this fall, or potentially push it off until next construction season. I wish I could give you more concrete black and white information, but due to the nature of the entire situation, there just isn't.
Can last year's CHIPS money be rolled into a third year?
That I don't know.
See, if we're going to lose that, then it may be worth taking a shot at the 80% chance or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I can check. We'd have to check with the DOT.
It's a hard thing, really, because
No, I know, and I hate to
we,
just say like, "Hey guys, what do you want to do?" But
I'm really not eager to commit to anything, knowing all the words we're hearing coming out of Albany and out of the federal government that there are going to be some cuts, and the schools have been told expect drastic cuts. I get what Crouch is saying, that it's a different sort of funding mechanism, and we should have more confidence in it maybe. And maybe we should. I don't know. I guess I'd be curious what other people are thinking.
So how confident was the Crouch office that this would be funded and we wouldn't have a problem? I mean, were they like, oh, well, we think, or were they pretty confident, right?
His final statement to me was that his whole staff feels confident that it won't be tweaked below that 80%. He's been in the assembly for quite a long time, and he said that even during extremely lean years, he referenced post September 11th as a year when the state budget and the DOT budget and so on and so forth was drastically impacted. He said that CHIPS didn't take a hit then, but different governors, different legislatures, there's no black and white.
I'm hesitant to change any sort of budgeting plan we have without any real more solid information. So
I did try to find out today where they were at with the May sales tax to give us a better feel, because in April, the sales tax revenue was down 26% for Broome County, which means that ours will be down immensely. The comptroller has not updated their spreadsheet yet for May, so I can't even begin to gather what that's going to be like. But I don't think it's going to be pretty.
Jason, did you mean you're leaning toward doing it or not toward doing it?
I'm leaning towards going as we've planned. Like as we budgeted for doing the work, my instinct would be to go do the work. I don't know. It's so hard to make decisions when nobody can give us information.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm shooting in the dark, and there's a 50-50 shot that we'll get the money, we won't get the money. Like, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
If we don't spend the money, we lose it. Well, if we spend it and we don't have it, then we're in the hole.
And we don't have extra to be in the hole with.
And this is set to a backdrop of even more uncertainties, like with what Linda talked about with sales tax and others here over the next 3-4 months.
Right.
But
there's an association of town highway superintendents, and their stance was that their member is very obviously not a member, but they also get CHIPS funding. Their stance was that it's safe for municipalities to proceed with the 80% number. That's their interpretation. However, it's how
but
there's more
that
than anybody else's. I don't, not really.
But that's good to hear that you said that, because now in my mind I'm thinking you've heard from two different entities, the Crouch office and the superintendents, and they both feel that it's okay. So that gives me a little bit more confidence in the idea of moving forward. If both of those groups, if we went, even this is going to be great when, we have a bigger hole in our budget and we say, well, we asked everybody and they said, go ahead. That won't really matter much.
Yeah.
But again, you're asking the people that you think you should go to, and that's two different groups that have said move forward. So maybe we should just move forward. Maybe Jason's point is a valid one.
I think with this, I consider this infrastructure. Roads are infrastructure. I'm all for caution too, 100%. And I am cautious, and we are in choppy, strange decision-making waters. But this isn't. I feel more confident that it's an investment in our infrastructure than this isn't some type of purchase. If this was equipment that we were purchasing, I would plan to purchase. I'd say no, definitely not. But I feel as decent as I can feel about it, which is still skeptical, but.
Do we need a motion to proceed, or what do we got to do?
No, it's as budgeted, but I wanted to pitch it to you guys to make sure we were all, had some type of consensus. Because if the consensus was the other way, we would just say, don't do it. Wait.
Yeah, I'm more in favor of proceeding, just because it, as Jason pointed out, it's budgeted. And as you have pointed out, you went to two different groups and talked, and they felt fairly confident that that was going to be funded to the 80% threshold.
And I can still, it's not going to get paved tomorrow. I can follow up with Senator Akshar's office tomorrow. I can do as much as I can and get back with you guys, just so we can bring it to as much of a close as we can. And if Akshar is telling us, hold up, don't do anything, we'll reconsider.
Yeah.
That sound good?
That sounds like a plan.
Okay. Thank you. That brings us to the sewer report. I haven't heard much from them lately, and I don't mean that as an insult, but that's good sometimes.
That's good, right?
Yeah.
Jeff didn't have much to report. He just needed to purchase some items and wanted approval.
Good.
Is that a motion to approve some items?
Do we need to? Isn't it in the budget?
But we were still at the point until Ryan had the conversation with him, everything he was told to get approved before he did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I move.
I don't even know if it requires a motion, so to speak. It's just a.
Move it.
There we go. Sounds good.
Second.
We got a motion. We got a second. We got a second. Do we have any discussion? Then we'll call the vote. Jason.
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Thank you. I always have to visualize like our lineup.
I can see it.
They're in a different
Accessing.
order. I'm like, yeah. All right. So now we have a site plan review for AB construction. As some of you have surely noticed, this is already in process. It was, picked up by code enforcement once it was in process, picked up by DEC once it was in process, and site plan review was filled out, sent to the county for review. The county did send their sheet back, I believe. Does everybody have that, Linda? I didn't double check the county's comments.
It's in Dropbox, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So the county did make some comments. The county's normally pretty short on comments. They don't normally say a whole lot. This one, they did include some basic comments, basically pointing out proximity to the flood wall, those types of things. I think that probably is almost mandatory language. They put anything, close to the flood wall. My understanding is the AB has, worked with DEC to put it in a place where it is best. So with that said, your guys' site plan review process is now open. What questions or comments do you guys have or thoughts?
I'm a little in the dark. I've had a little harder time accessing my folder. I just went back to try to get into the shared folder, and it's not recognizing my email address, so that is a bit of an issue. So I can't see necessarily what I need to see. It's on my end. I don't know what the deal is. So
Yeah, no, I had the same. It just takes some finagling. I think I didn't have time.
okay, and I didn't have time to finagle with it, but it just so you're in the know.
It's also, I mean, it's one of those things where it's kind of a peculiar situation. Normally, we would have the applicant in front of us and be able to, ask them various questions. But obviously, this does not enable that.
There's no issue with the railroad, right?
Not to my knowledge.
Part of the review comments from the county says that the proposed thing is not along the railroad tracks. So if DOT is asking the same question, does DOT need to bother with it when it's not along the railroad tracks?
It's actually up against the dike side. It basically looks like the salt shed that used to be down at Castle Creek. I mean, it's that type of shape. You can see it if you go up 11, look over to the left, you can see it sticking up above the dike. It's pretty much what it is, that type of thing.
A lot of people thought it was a salt shed.
Yeah, it looks like it. So.
I mean, it's almost if you guys have questions, obviously, or concerns, please let them be known. But since it's virtually up at this point, or more than virtually, it's more of a formality. But if the village has concerns of any kind, obviously we can address them.
It's a temporary structure, right? So it could always, if there's an issue, they could just. Is it a temporary structure?
I've heard conflicting.
I don't know if it's temporary or not, Jason. I have not been over to look at it.
Well, the paperwork seems to say temporary, but I haven't seen it. So
I believe Dan told me that it was.
The shipping containers are obviously very, very heavy, but are certainly movable. And the structure that's between them is one of those garage type structures that we don't allow in the village for people to have on their driveways. They're not permanent enough. But in this case, I guess it's the documentation says that's a good thing, because if there was a case of flooding or the potential breach of the dike it's set next to, the stuff could be moved.
It also doesn't really, because of the nature of the lot, it doesn't impact, there's no nearby neighbors. There's neighboring residential property, but the structure doesn't really impact the neighbors and so much. There's a railroad on one side, a flood wall on the other, and there is, a house right there, but I haven't heard anything from that resident about it, which I suspect is, I hate to assume, but means no bother.
are you looking for a motion to approve this tonight?
Yeah, we would.
I'll make that motion.
You got the seeker stuff too that you have to do.
Oh yeah. Nate
It's a
requested
type 2.
type,
So
yeah. type 2 declaration. That
Okay.
you need a motion to declare it a type 2 declaration. Is that right, Bob?
Yeah, it'd be a motion that this is to declare the type 2 action that requires no further assessment. So you don't have to
Okay.
do the questions that you normally have to do for an unlisted action, the 11 questions or whatever.
So first motion would be for that.
All right, I'll move that.
We have that motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
We have a motion. We have a second. We have any discussion? We will call the vote. Jason,
Yes.
Bob,
yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to a resolution to create a code enforcement officer position. So we've been talking about this for a while. We introduced it last meeting. It was tabled.
Ryan, do we
Yeah.
have to do something further with that thing? We just,
Oh, shoot, you're right.
Hey,
That was just the type 2 action. Thank you, Bob. So we would need a motion to approve the site plan now.
I'll move that.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any discussion? We'll call the vote. Jason,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay. So tabled last meeting was the creation of a code enforcement officer position. We've kind of been talking about this during the budget time. Briefly introduced it last meeting and tabled it. So Ken is technically, I forget his official title, but it is actually not code enforcement officer. I think it's building inspector.
Building and code inspector.
Yeah. So this would create a new position, part-time position, a code enforcement officer, to be filled by Dave Conklin, who's been our backup for Ken. He works full-time for the town of Union as a code enforcement officer with a specialty in property maintenance and property complaints, which is where I think a lot of our opportunity lies. So in creating this position, we would basically take half of Ken's hours, half of Ken's days, and they would be filled by Dave Conklin. Ken intends to retire about a year from now, and Dave would again, it'd be the village board at that time's decision, but that would kind of be the rough thought process, is that Dave would come on and then as time goes on, hypothetically progress. So with that said, we need a resolution to make that happen if the board so wishes.
Can I ask a question about the resolution?
Yep.
I noticed that it says resolution number 1 of 2021. Is that correct?
Yes. It is fiscal year 2020 to 2021. So every year we start in June, it always goes to the end of our fiscal year.
I've been on this board, almost 30 years, 25, 30 years. I never noticed that before with the numbering of the resolution.
Sandy will not usually put the numbers in until after the meeting. I put them in and have it over with. So yeah.
That's attention to detail.
Uh-oh, we lost Bob.
Did we lose Jason and Mike? Oh, okay. Hold on. They're facing.
No, we're here.
Okay.
Just lost Bob's picture. Bob's still there. Just lost his picture.
Oh.
There.
There he
Okay.
is.
Good question, Bob. Is there any other
We-
thoughts?
So now,
Question.
We-
my enlightenment, I'll be happy to move the resolution.
Yeah, there you go. I'll second it.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have any discussion? Okay. So we'll call a vote. Jason,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This brings us to an interesting discussion. So as we've been talking about, a lot of 11th hour decisions have been coming from the state. So towards the tail end of last week, the governor tweeted that outdoor dining was now allowed. I think this was last Thursday. So this created a lot of confusion, because what that technically allows is it allows it to be enabled in any place where it is already allowed. It's not a blanket, statement. But what would most business owners or average citizen make of that? They would make, well, the outdoor dining is now allowed. Most folks don't understand how state and local law intersect. So Nate and Ken and I kind of put together a process through our already existing local laws and channels and permitting that would give us an avenue to address it if needed to, and if more people want to do it, we have an avenue. So basically, I'm sure you've all been downtown and seen it. There's some outdoor dining happening within kind of outside some properties and some on the sidewalks. The response that I have personally heard to this has been positive. People have been happy to have an avenue to get out to support local businesses. Obviously, public safety is always, and being able to pass by those sidewalks were the things that I wanted to make sure we had an avenue to enforce or ask a business to adjust. And we most certainly do. We still maintain all of those rights. So, if somebody does complain that they can't pass by a business that's doing this, or something is unsafe, then we have every right to address it. However, we received several different requests shortly thereafter this. So I received two different requests, and I'm going to detail them to you guys, and you don't have to make a decision tonight. So the first party to come to us was Sparky's, who asked for permission Friday and Saturday evenings, I believe between 4 and 9. I would double check my paperwork, but Friday, Saturday evenings to close off what we kind of loosely refer to as Northern Collins, the portion of Northern Collins next to his business, and put tables and chairs in that area. And people would still be able to, it'd be barricaded, still be able to get in and do a loop. They'd obviously be able to come in, ingress or egress next to the laundromat, and then they could still get in and do a turnaround by his business to go out the other side if they needed to, didn't know the road was closed. I went down there and walked it with him, talked about it with Jim, so on and so forth. So that was the first request. That was a 2-night-a-week request to close Northern Collins with barricades and put seating there. The second request came from Aiello's and was then seconded and so on by many residents online. The concept came from some other cities are closing off blocks, so on and so forth, to allow for outdoor seating in the road. Basically, they're closing entire blocks of streets to enable restaurants to do outdoor dining. The request was to close down Main Street for this. So I do not see closing Main Street for a repeated thing to be viable. For a one-off event, it's one thing. That for a repeated practice, you potentially, obviously safety issues, but Main Street's a busy street. You're talking about potentially rerouting, truck traffic through nearby, Collins Street, Liberty Street, residential neighborhoods, which the residents who live there probably wouldn't be too thrilled with. With that said, a better option, if we were going to approve it, would be to close off, a small section of Collins itself, where there are several restaurants there. And, that I would be much more comfortable with that as opposed to Main Street, because our main street is called Main Street for a reason. It's a busy street. So that was my first thought, where if we were going to do it, I would much prefer that. And then it creates a lot of questions.
Can we?
We can. I talked it over with Nate. We have the right to do so. We have no legal liability in doing so. It's just like any other event. If a private event wants to be held in the street, it's on whoever's holding the event. If some unfortunate catastrophe, accident, tragedy happens. With that said, what I said was, I definitely, our staff can't be there, absolutely will not be there to put up barriers or take down barriers. The businesses hypothetically could maintain that themselves. And the one situation that I absolutely do not want to get into is having businesses snipe at each other, which will probably happen anyway, about, what space they've been granted, or, how come this place got that many tables and I only got this many. So I talked over with Nate, and Nate said, basically, we can treat the Sparky's proposal as one proposal. And then, because we can treat each one based on location. And then we can treat the other proposal, separately. It almost like a site plan. Like we can say, send me exact hours and days that you want. Tell me exact number of tables that you want out there, and then we will consider it. And if other businesses want to be involved, then sign on to this plan.
Can I ask the second proposal, the one that was put forward by Aiello's, other businesses there as well have asked for that area to Collins Street to be barricaded or closed off temporarily?
I have not heard from the Chinese restaurant or Dominic's, and that's why,
which are primarily takeout places for the most part.
Yes, and I would certainly want to hear from them if we were going to close that portion, because they may or may not favor it because of the takeout.
Which brings me to my point. What is Aiello's? They have that big parking lot that barely anybody's parking in it. Why have they not had that area barricaded off? You could still have some parking on the end or whatever, but you could make a whole half a parking lot full of tables if you wanted to.
Jim mentioned too,
before we start closing roads.
Yeah, Jim mentioned too, that phase 3 opens Saturday, and we do not yet, hypothetically, 11th hour decisions. Indoor dining will be allowed within certain restrictions, but we do not yet know the demand, what the demand will be for indoor dining. Will these restaurants have capacity inside? Will their customers be comfortable, or will they be so overrun that they will need more seating? We don't have any concrete way to tell that right now. I know what was communicated by certainly Sparky's and certainly Aiello's, the two parties that directly requested, was that, and I'm sure you guys all know this, that their businesses are struggling right now and they need every asset that they can get, and I'm sure some of them are making plans on top of plans. So I definitely, the normal part of Collins, I definitely don't see Main Street as viable. If the board feels differently, obviously you can tell me, but I wouldn't even really consider that right now. The Collins Street, the southern Collins Street area between Aiello's, Dominic's, and Lucky Kitchen, I think what I would recommend is if you guys want to do this, all three of you get on board and come back to us with a solid proposal for us to consider. That way we can know that everybody is on board and this is what they envision and they all agree, and then the board can consider it.
I'm fine with that. Get the nitpicking out of the way before it even gets to us.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, because the Sparky situation is different than Aiello's. And
Just
so they need,
geographic.
yeah, I'm very hesitant, you know, and again, I want to see business do well, specifically, you know, Whitney Point business, but I worry, you know, Main Street can't be a consideration, and Collins, even Collins is, I'm skeptical of
Mhm.
what that would look like.
Yeah.
I'd like to help the businesses if we can, because I'm sure they are struggling. I'm concerned about shutting off Main Street or Collins, even Collins. I think we need to really pay attention to the hours they want.
That's right. Lighting in particular.
Lighting, you know, if they stay till 9 on a night, you know, like tonight where
Sure.
it's cloudy and stuff, then
We-
they're picking up tables. They're going to have staff out there in the middle of the street. You know, I just
And this, I think the safety end too, Bobby, is something that, you know, if you're closing off a street you don't normally close off, it's dusky. I'm not saying it would, but I wouldn't want to see an issue there, safety wise. You know what I mean? At the end of Collins Street, that would bug me a little bit. A better plan, which definitely sounds like it would be in order.
So it sounds like we have consensus. We'll try to get a plan from the businesses that want to be involved as far as anything, and then the board can reconsider at a future meeting. How do we feel about the Sparky's proposal? He did provide, you know, I can't provide you guys with a diagram, but I'm sure you can envision it. Basically from Main Street to right where the ingress
To
or
cut it
egress
off.
would be back by that little, I call it the phone company building. That would still be open, so somebody could come through and turn around and go back out. You know, there's much less ingress and egress there in general.
Yeah, but I can just imagine what would happen if we approve that and not approve
Yeah.
the others.
Yeah.
the other thing with the Collins Street, I believe, is if the two takeout businesses opposite Aiello's are not on board with this, that gets to be problematic, because
Yeah.
then we're blocking off their parking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
And
and they may not be happy about that at all.
Yeah, and I would definitely like to see. I would be much more open to considering a plan that was signed on to by all of the businesses and property owners right along that strip. I'd feel much more confident in hearing it.
Yeah, and a plan. If they all came together and they had a plan and they showed us the safety precautions and how they want to keep the flow of traffic and where they want to block off and how they're going to maintain it. Those are big questions. I think requesting it is one thing, but you gotta show us a little bit more detail what you have in mind.
But as it stands, it's going to be a lot easier for Sparky's to get that approved than it is.
Yeah, because it's an easier. Yeah, it's just an
Right.
easier.
And just knowing the possibility for agitation.
We're so damned if we do, damned if we don't here with this. Be pro business, help Mike out, but we can't do Aiello's, so bang, bang, bang.
Well,
bang,
I did ask that question to Nate. You know, like, you know, it is just from a liability perspective. If we act on one, you know, are we obligated to act on the other? Treat them the same, guarantee the same number of tables or hours or whatever? You know, Nate said, no, it's all based on your location. It's your, you know, you purchased the property there. You know, each site will have to have different standards, but there is obviously the personal aspects to it. And
if you want to move on Sparky's, you got to immediately get to Aiello's and say, this is why, and this is what you need to do, if we can. And God, I'm glad I'm not mayor.
Well, that's why I'm asking you guys. I mean, if the board feels, you know, right now we don't feel comfortable closing any streets until we can have an even set of rules for anybody that we're going to do, then that's what I'm going to go with.
I'm very much up for entertaining the notion. I'm just,
Yeah.
I kind of want to know the variables involved here. I want to know, are we talking a night or two a week? I want to know, is everybody on board?
Yeah.
I mean, if,
Yeah.
if all three businesses that are south of Main Street are for it, then I'd say let's do this thing.
Sure.
But if there's
Right.
any sort of pushback from Dominic's or Lucky Kitchen, then we've got to weigh that into consideration.
That's right. So we need to hear from those businesses and a more comprehensive idea of how this is going to go down.
How about the Sparkies? And I personally feel that he has provided, the information that we're looking for, the exact days, the exact hours. He thought.
Well, like
through
I
the
said,
address.
Rye, you're going to have to get out. I don't mean to be a
No, I
jerk,
know.
but you got to get on that fast, because
Oh, I
the
know.
minute that goes up, Charlie and
Linda's gonna
Vinny are
post the
going to
meeting
start doing it
online.
on their own anyways.
Yeah.
They're not going to wait.
I'm
So I don't-
hesitant to really say anything until we know what's going on with the portion of
others?
Collins south of
Okay.
Main Street.
All
I
right.
don't want
So
to approve anything just yet.
okay. So I'll follow up as quickly as I can with the other set and try to get everybody on the same playing field as much as I can. Any other thoughts or comments?
I think did you mention that these businesses will be apprised that village employees and stuff are not helping with this?
Oh yeah.
Because I know the fire chief told me one day recently that he's had probably 30 or 40 phone calls over the last 2 or 3 months, people wanting fire trucks to do birthday parades for their 6-year-old everywhere. And, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
And I don't know paperwork wise what we're going to need for them to sign off insurance wise. I mean, if they're hosting off of their property, and I mean, what formalities do we need to adhere to make sure that we're not liable for anybody who gets, injured?
Yeah.
Fire engines for birthdays. We're in a pandemic. It's saltines and grape juice, kid. Birthday's tough this year.
Nate, Jason, in reference to your question, Nate mentioned that it would basically be treated the same way, for example, we would treat like a parade, like a public gathering permit. And it would just have to have like specific dates, like this begins now and it ends then. This isn't an open-ended thing. It ends,
Okay.
For example, November 1st or whatever, September 1st, whatever. That would have to be on the so-called application.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, questions, or comments? Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for racking your brains. If you have anything else, feel free to message me individually if you have any other thoughts or concerns about the whole subject. Very, as you guys all know, very evolving times. So next we have a bunch of routine resolutions. This is our first meeting of the new fiscal year. First one is to appoint an attorney and law firm. Maybe this is why Nate chose to not be here, so we couldn't harass him during this resolution coming up. So we would be looking for a motion to appoint Coughlin and Gerhardt as our attorney and law firm.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
We have
second it.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have any discussion? So we will call the vote. Jason,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Thank you. We have a resolution authorizing Linda to invest excess funds.
Excess funds.
Yeah, the good one.
That's a funny one.
I like this one as much as Bob likes the railroad, paying the railroad fee.
This is a safe one, so I'll move it.
Okay.
Second.
We have a second. Do we have any discussion? We'll call the vote. Jason,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay. To name a resolution to name NBT Bank our official depository. No change there. We have a motion.
I'll move it again.
We have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion? We'll call the vote. Jason,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes,
Mike.
Yes.
And this last one, a resolution to name the Press and Sun Bulletin, again, no change, our official newspaper for advertising and so on and so forth.
if for no other reason than to put some news back into my newspaper occasionally, I'll move it.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a
Pretty
second.
thin.
Do we have any discussion?
The Press
Call
and
the
Sun's
vote.
pretty thin.
Well, I'll keep my comment to myself. Call the vote. Jason,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes,
Mike.
Yes.
Okay. I already mentioned, just so everybody knows, and so the public who watch this knows, phase 3 supposedly begins at the end of this week. The only other business that we have is that the governor's executive order granting the ability to hold digital meetings has been extended, I think, all the way through October. It does not mandate us to have digital meetings, but it enables it. So I don't know if people on the board have any, just want to continue as is for the time being. I just wanted to mention that it had been extended all the way to October, and
When is it through? This month, right? July 6th or something?
Yes, but
executive
I
order.
believe-
the executive order you said now goes through October, Ryan?
Yeah, it got extended just today.
We can or we have to?
No, you can.
I believe it's July. I can check.
I thought it was July
Yeah.
6th.
July
But
6th, that's
I
the
got an
number I
email
had.
today saying, I think it was from NICOM, saying that it got extended.
I
Well, we can double
thought,
check.
I thought Nate had said it was the 6th. So the town still hasn't opened the building. So just
Yeah.
so you all know that.
Okay, well, we'll proceed till it's time to get together and hug.
That may never come. Okay, I have no other old or new business then. Anybody else?
Nope.
All right, then this meeting is adjourned. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
See you guys, miss you guys.
For tuning in.
yeah, Mike.
See ya.
I
See ya.
Take care.